Shh. My sister set my house on fire after I refused to transfer the deed to her. Shh. My parents begged me to drop the charges because she has a child, but the judge didn't agree. Watching her finally learn that actions have price tags was the only closure I ever got. Now, I stand on the courthouse, steps as the rain washes, suit from the sidewalk. Behind me, the heavy brass doors click shut with finality. I can still taste the acrid smoke in my throat. My father, Donald, grips my elbow with a desperate, shaking hand. He smells of old coffee and stale grief. He leans in close, his eyes wet and pleading for a miracle I refuse to grant. Paris stands beside him, her face a mask of calculated misery. They don't ask if I have a place to sleep tonight. They only speak of the granddaughter who might grow up behind glass partitions. Their loyalty is a one-way street paved with my silence. I remember the 7 years of grit it took to buy that wreck. Starting in my early 20s, I worked double shifts until my vision blurred and my bones ached. I spent every weekend sanding floors and scraping lead paint while my family celebrated Alora's latest self-inflicted crisis. They called me the strong one, a title they used to justify their total neglect. To them, my stability was just a resource they hadn't tapped yet. My independence was an insult to their shared chaos. The housewarming 6 months ago was the moment the mask finally slipped. I expected a quiet night with a few beers and a level floor. Instead, Alora marched in with a printed folder and a dozen strangers. She talked about the master bedroom like she was choosing a hotel suite. Dario walked the perimeter, tapping the walls I had reinforced with my own sweat. They didn't see a home, they saw an asset. When I said no, the air hurt. Then came the night the cameras went dark. I was 3 states away when the alert hit my phone. The feed showed a hooded figure moving through the shadows with a heavy plastic jug. I watched the first spark bloom into a roar before the signal died. It wasn't an accident or a lapse in judgment. It was a cold, calculated strike meant to erase what she couldn't own. My past was burning because I dared to have a future. Now, I pull my arm away from my father's desperate reach. He calls me heartless, but I feel lighter than I have in a decade. I have a job offer waiting in a city they can't find on a map. My bags are already packed in the trunk of a car they don't recognize. I look at them one last time and see the strangers they always were. I turn toward the parking lot and don't look back at the ruins. The cold rain needles my skin as I reach my car. I thumb the ignition and the engine hums a low, steady promise of distance. My objective is simple: get to the bank, secure the final insurance check, and disappear. But a dark SUV swerves across the wet asphalt, blocking my exit path. Dario steps out of the vehicle, his jaw tight and eyes frantic. He looks like a man who just lost his last gamble. He slams his palm against my hood, the metal booming like a muffled drum. You think you can just walk away after destroying her life? He snarls through the glass. I lower the window just an inch, letting the scent of damp pavement and his desperation inside. I do not flinch or reach for the lock. I simply stare at him with the flat indifference of a man who has already watched everything he loved burn to ash. Dario leans in, H. His voice dropping to a jagged whisper. The parents are already talking to a new lawyer to appeal the restitution. They will drain you dry, Wayne. He thinks this threat carries weight. H. But he doesn't realize I have already liquidated every tie to this town. I see a flicker of movement in the SUV's back seat. A small H. pale face presses against the tinted window. It is Bentley, clutching a charred toy from my ruined living room. My heart hammers a slow H. heavy rhythm against my ribs. Seeing my nephew holding a piece of my stolen life changes the math of this encounter. H. Get the kid out of here, Dario, I say, my voice like grinding stone. He scoffs and reaches into his jacket. H. Pulling out a crumpled envelope. It is a bill of sale for the land I just sold. He knows the developer. H. The realization hits me that my escape route is already being watched. H. The power balance shifts as I realize the developer is his cousin. My clean break has a jagged edge I didn't anticipate. We can make this go away if you sign over the insurance payout, he says with a predatory grin. I put the car in reverse, my tires screaming against the slick pavement. I don't need his permission to leave. The payout is frozen anyway. But he doesn't know that yet. I only need a clear line of sight. But the SUV isn't the only vehicle closing in on me. H. My mother's sedan pulls up behind me, pinning me into a tight metallic trap. Paris climbs out. H. Her face streaked with tears that no longer move me. She holds a phone out like a weapon, the screen glowing with a live video call. H. It is Alora, calling from the processing center. Her eyes are wide and hollow, stripped of their usual arrogance. H. She isn't begging for forgiveness. She is telling me where she hid the rest of the accelerant. The H, a chill that has nothing to do with the rain, settles in my marrow. The fire department missed a second sight near the gas main. H. My house wasn't the final target. The entire block is sitting on a hair trigger. Shh. I look at Bentley in the back seat, and then at the phone in my mother's hand. My parents knew. H. They knew about the second trap and kept quiet to use it as leverage. The price of my life just went up. H. The digital face of my sister flickers on the screen. Her voice is a rasping whisper through the speaker. H. She describes the soaked rags stuffed into the crawl space near the rusted gas main. My parents watch me with a terrifying H. hopeful intensity. They want me to trade my silence for the safety of the neighborhood. My objective is clear now. H. I have to call the fire marshal before the remaining vapors find a spark. It is cold blackmail. I lunge for my phone. Esh. But Dario blocks my reach through the window. He pins my wrist against the door frame. The metal edge bites into my skin with a sharp H, stinging heat. My mother stands by the rear bumper, her body a physical barrier against my escape. H. They are willing to let the ground explode to keep Alora out of prison. It is a madness I never fully understood until this exact second. Their love is a weapon. Just sign the papers. Shh. Wayne. My father shouts over the rain. He holds the developer's contract against my windshield like a shield. H. I see the greed behind his grief now. They don't just want her free. They want the insurance money to pay off her debts. The power balance shifts when I notice the smell of sulfur rising from the storm drain. The leak is already active. H. The rags were just a secondary fuse for the main line. I stop struggling and look Dario directly in his eyes. H. I show him the fear he should be feeling. The gas is already venting, I say with a forced, deadly calm. He pauses. H. His nostrils flaring as he catches the scent. The arrogance in his posture vanishes. He looks back at Bentley in the SUV. H. The child is still playing with the charred toy, oblivious to the invisible cloud. H. Dario's grip on my arm slackens, just enough for me to move. I wrench my hand free and throw the car into drive. I don't go backward this time. I drive over the curb, narrowly missing my mother's legs. The tires churn through the mud and over the sidewalk. I need to reach the main shut-off valve at the street corner. It is a race against a chemistry I cannot control. My parents scramble toward their car, screaming names I no longer recognize. They think I am running away from them. I reach the iron utility cover and jump out. The rain is a torrential curtain now. I use a tire iron to pry the heavy lid open. The smell of mercaptan is overwhelming, a thick rot in the back of my throat. I see the valve through the murky water. It is jammed with debris and rusted solid. I hear a faint, etch, high-pitched hiss coming from the earth beneath my feet. The pressure is building toward a catastrophic failure point. H. My father catches up to me, his face a mask of rage. He tries to pull me away from the valve. You're going to ruin everything, he bellows into the wind. I shove him back with a strength born of pure survival. H. He stumbles and falls into the rising puddle. As I turn back to the iron handle, I see a spark. A downed power line is dancing on the wet pavement just 10 feet away. The fuse is lit. The dancing wire snaps against the asphalt. H. Throwing blue sparks into the gray sky. My objective is the iron valve, but the electricity makes the ground a literal minefield. H. I scream at my father to stay back, but he is blinded by his own frantic greed. He thinks I am stealing his daughter's freedom. H. He doesn't see the death trap humming beneath the puddles. The smell of gas is now a thick, oily weight. H. I use the rubber-handled tire iron to bridge the gap toward the rusted nut. H. Each movement is a gamble against the erratic pulses of the downed line. My father reaches for my shoulder. H. His fingers digging into my coat. I wrench away, but his weight throws me off balance. I fall toward the open utility vault. My hand inches from the electrified water. This is the family legacy. It is a slow descent into fire. Suddenly, H. A heavy set of work boots stomps onto the pavement beside us. It is Alonzo, my only real friend. H. Carrying a fiberglass pole from his truck. He pins the sparking wire to the ground, creating a narrow path of safety. Go, Wayne! Turn the damn thing! He roars over the wind. The power balance shifts in an instant. I have a chance now. H. I reach into the hole and grip the freezing iron. I heave against the valve with every ounce of muscle I have left. The metal groans. H. Resisting the torque as if it wants the explosion to happen. Then, with a sickening crack, the rust gives way. H. I spin the handle 3 full rotations until the hissing sound finally dies. The silence that follows is more deafening than the storm. The immediate threat is gone, but my father is still staring at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. He doesn't care that I saved the neighborhood from a secondary blast. H. He only cares that the evidence of the second sight is now preserved. H. The fire investigators will find the rags and the accelerant in the crawl space. H. This discovery will turn Alora's arson into a premeditated felony with no chance of a plea. H. I look at my father and realize he knew this would happen. He wanted the explosion to hide her tracks. You've killed her, he whispers. H. His voice cracking like dry wood. He stands up and walks back to the car without a second glance at me. H. Alonzo stands guard with the pole, watching the shadows of the SUV as it peels away. My parents are gone, leaving me alone in the rain with the truth. I check my phone, see the call is still active. Alora is laughing. It is a high, terrifying sound. The laughter stops abruptly as a new voice enters the digital feed. It is a police sergeant, H, informing her that a new warrant is being processed. The search of the crawlspace has already begun. H. I realized then that she didn't just hide rags there. She hid the physical records of my father's business debts. The H. My house wasn't just a target of her spite. It was a vault for the family's darkest financial secrets. H. The cold rain washes the sulfur scent into the gutters. My objective shifts from survival to total exposure. H. I must get to the crawl space before the police secure the perimeter and seal the truth away. My father's business ledgers are the anchor holding this entire family underwater. If I find them, the leverage my parents hold over me vanishes forever. I push past Alonzo, my boots splashing through the oily puddles. H. The ruined house looms like a skeletal beast. The front door is a charred maw of splinters and ash. H. I step inside, and the heat still radiates from the blackened floorboards. The floor groans under my weight. H. A warning I cannot afford to heed. My flashlight beam cuts through the floating suit, illuminating the jagged hole in the pantry floor. Shh. This is the entrance to the crawl space, where the secret's live. I smell the fresh scent of gasoline fighting the rot. Itch. Someone was here very recently. I drop into the cramped, dirt-floored void. My shoulders scrape against the damp joists as I crawl toward the gas main. My flashlight hits a metal lockbox tucked behind a brick pier. It is partially melted, but the heavy steel core remains intact. I reach for it, but a sharp glint in the dirt stops my hand. It is a set of keys with a bright pink keychain. They belong to my mother. H. The betrayal has a physical weight now. I realize she wasn't just an enabler, she was the architect. H. She sent Alora to do the dirty work while she held the alibi. My mother wanted the debt to burn as much as my sister wanted the house. H. I grab the box and pull it into my chest. The metal is still uncomfortably warm against my skin. Above me, H. The floorboards creak with the heavy, rhythmic tread of several people. The police have arrived at the front door. H. I cannot be caught here with this box. The power balance shifts as I realize the police aren't alone. I hear my father's voice outside. Shh, loud and frantic, pointing the officers away from the pantry. He is trying to buy time for someone else to finish the job. A shadow falls over the crawlspace opening. It is Dario, clutching a heavy flare gun. He doesn't see me in the darkness yet. H? He is looking for the gas line I just closed. Just finish it and get out. My father bellows from the yard. H? Dario levels the flare gun at the corner where the rags were hidden. If he fires H, the residual vapors will still ignite a localized flash. It won't level the block, but it will incinerate me and the evidence I hold. H, I stay perfectly still, my heart hammering against the metal box. I have one chance to move before the world turns white. H, I choose to lunge for his ankles. I collide with Dario's shins, and we both tumble into the dirt. Ish. The flare gun discharges with a deafening crack, the red light bouncing off the low ceiling. The flare hisses in a puddle of muddy water, failing to find a fuel source. Dario screams as I pin him to the wet earth. Outside, the police sirens reach a screaming crescendo. I look at the lockbox and realize the seal is broken. Inside is a single H. unburned photograph of me as a child. I stare at the small, faded photograph while the red flare sputters and dies in the mud. H. The objective is no longer just escape. It is to understand why this box contains my face instead of ledgers. Dario groans beneath me. H. His hands clawing at the damp earth. The scent of ozone and wet dirt fills the cramped space. H. I tuck the picture into my pocket and grip the metal box. I need to reach the surface before the officers find me in this tomb. H. The heavy footsteps above stop directly over the pantry opening. A flashlight beam cuts through the dust. H. Blinding me for a frantic second.
Police! Show your hands!
A voice bellows from the light. H. I release Dario and shove the box into the darkest corner of the pier. If they find it now, the H, my parents will claim it was stolen property. My obstacle is the badge, and the pressure is rising with every heartbeat. I raise my empty, shaking hands into the cold, dusty air. The officers pull me out of the crawl space with a rough, efficient yank. H. I blink against the bright tactical lights as they secure my wrists in zip ties. My father stands behind them. Ash. His face a mask of false concern. He points at Dario as the man climbs out of the hole, covered in soot. H. He was trying to save my son. Donald lies smoothly to the sergeant. The power balance shifts as I realize the police are buying the narrative. I am the suspect. H. I look at the sergeant and see the skepticism in his eyes. He holds the flare gun Dario dropped in the mud. Whose is this? He asks, Ch, his voice like a low growl. My mother steps forward, her eyes darting toward the pantry. She doesn't answer the question, Ch, but she places a hand on the sergeant's arm. She is playing the grieving matriarch to perfection. I feel the weight of the photograph in my pocket. It is the only thing they didn't expect me to have. Check the box, I say, etch. My voice steady despite the adrenaline. My father flinches, his eyes widening as he looks at the crawl space. H. The sergeant frowns and signals his partner to drop back into the hole. The silence in the ruined kitchen is absolute. H. Even the rain seems to hold its breath against the charred walls. My mother's grip on her purse tightens until her knuckles turn white. They know the secrets are out. The hidden vault is finally being opened by the law. H. The second officer emerges holding the warm steel box. He sets it on the suit, covered counter with a heavy thud. H. My father tries to step forward, but the sergeant blocks his path with a firm hand. The lock is melted, but the prying tool makes quick work of the lid. Inside, beneath the false bottom where the photo sat, are stacks of clean, uncirculated bills. This isn't just business debt. It is the insurance money from a fire they set 10 years ago. The H. The realization hits me like a physical blow to the chest. My parents didn't just enable Alora, they trained her. H. They had burned their previous house to escape a different set of debts. I was a teenager then. H. And I believed their lies about a faulty space heater. They used my hard work on this ranch to set up their next big payday. H. The housewarming wasn't a celebration. It was a scouting mission for the next insurance claim. I am nauseous from the betrayal. H. The sergeant turns to my mother, his face hardening. Paris, we need to talk about these serial numbers, he says quietly. H. She collapses into a kitchen chair, her composure shattering into jagged pieces. Donald tries to run. H. But Alonzo is standing in the doorway, blocking the only exit. The police radio crackles with a new report from the station. H. They found the receipts for the accelerant in my father's trunk. The family business is finally closing. They are all caught in the net. H. I watch as they lead my parents away in separate cruisers. The zip ties on my wrists are cut, leaving deep red welts on my skin. The H. I stand alone in the shell of my kitchen, surrounded by the smell of failure. Alonzo walks over and hands me a bottle of water. Shh. That's over, Wayne, he says softly. I nod, but I know better. The fire is out, but the ground is still poisoned. I have the truth, H. But I have no family left to tell. I reach into my pocket and pull out the old photograph. It shows me at 5 years old, standing in front of our first home. I am holding a plastic hammer and wearing a gap-toothed smile. On the back, in my mother's elegant script, is a single sentence. H. Wayne will fix everything we break. I realize now that I was never the strong one. The H. I was just the designated repairman for their constant destruction. I drop the picture into the ash and walk out the door. I sit on the back of the ambulance while the paramedics check the raw welts on my wrists. H. My objective is to give a final statement and sever the remaining threads. The air is thick with the scent of wet soot and cooling iron. H. Across the yard, the police lead my father toward a cruiser following the discovery of the lockbox. He looks small and defeated under the harsh spotlights. My mother sits in the back of another car, her face hidden in her hands. H. The family engine has finally stalled out. The lead detective approaches me with a clipboard and a weary smile. He holds a clear evidence bag containing the pink keychain I found in the dirt. We found her prints on the gas valve, too, he says quietly. This is the obstacle I didn't want to face. I have to testify against the woman who gave me life. The pressure in my chest is a physical weight. H. I take a slow breath of the rain-cooled air. I agree to the morning deposition. Suddenly, Dario screams from the back of a police van. The H. He is kicking at the metal door with desperate force. The officers struggle to restrain him as he shouts about a third location. H. My heart stops as I realize the fire wasn't just about my house or the ledger. He mentions a storage unit registered in my name. The power balance shifts as the detective looks at me with renewed suspicion. They think I am the silent partner in this insurance ring. H. I stand up, my legs feeling like lead. I pull my phone out and show the detective my bank statements. I have worked 70 hours a week for years, I say. I have no secret accounts or hidden storage bins. H. The detective flips through the digital pages, his brow furrowing in thought. He sees the overtime and the humble savings. He realizes the family used my identity to hide their paper trail. They stole my name before they ever burned my home. H. Based on the address found in Dario's wallet, we drive to the storage facility on the edge of town. The rain has turned into a steady H. Rhythmic thrum. The detective cuts the lock on Unit 42. Inside, the beam of his light hits a stack of high-end electronics. H. These items were reported stolen from my parents' house years ago. I see my own forged signature on the insurance claim forms. They built a throne of lies and sat me on the bottom. I am sickened by their meticulous, long-term cruelty. I find a small wooden chest tucked behind a crate of flat-screen televisions. It is an old toy box I recognize from my childhood. H. I open the lid and find a collection of letters. They are addressed to me, but were never sent. Most are from my grandfather, A, leaving me his life insurance directly. My parents intercepted every single one of them, H. They used my inheritance to fund their first arson. They stole my future to pay for their past, H. You need to see this? The detective says, pointing at a laptop. He opens a file labeled with my social security number, H. It contains a series of life insurance policies taken out on me. The beneficiary is a shell company owned by Alora, H. The fire tonight wasn't just meant to hide the debts or the ledgers, H. It was meant to be a fatal accident for the one person who knew too much. They didn't just want my house. They wanted my life, H. The realization is a cold blade in my gut. I look at the dates on the policies. The most recent one was activated just 2 days ago, H. That was the day I told them I was leaving for the work trip. They thought I would be sleeping in that bedroom when the gas main blew. My father's frantic attempts to keep me at the housewarming make sense now. He wasn't being annoying, H. He was trying to ensure I stayed for the end. I walk out into the rain and lean against the cold brick wall. My phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. It is a photo of Bentley sleeping in the back of a car, H. The caption is short and chilling. We still have the boy. I realized Dario wasn't the only one in that SUV earlier. My sister's husband has a partner I haven't met. The nightmare is expanding. My family is a hydra, and I have only cut one head. Shh. I show the message to the detective immediately. He radios for an amber alert while I stare at the dark horizon. The objective has changed again. I have to find my nephew before the rest of the hydra disappears. H. I don't care about the money or the house anymore. Bentley is the only innocent thing left in this wreckage. H. I climb into the detective's car. The chase is on, and the rain shows no sign of stopping tonight. H. The detective slams the car into gear as the sirens wail. My objective is the old hunting cabin near the creek. H. It is the only place my father kept off the books. The rain turns the windshield into a blurred, silver sheet. My hands shake, not from cold, but from the sudden realization of the stakes. I am the only one who knows the hidden trail. If we miss it, H. Bentley disappears into the dark forever. The road ahead is a black ribbon. We hit the dirt track at high speed. The car fishtails. Mud spraying against the doors like heavy shrapnel. A fallen oak tree blocks the path, its thick limbs twisted across the gravel. H. We have to continue on foot. I grab a heavy flashlight and a crowbar from the trunk. H. The woods are a wall of thorns and wet pine needles. Every shadow looks like a threat. H. My lungs burn as I lead the way through the freezing, chaotic underbrush. I see a flicker of light through the trees. It is the cabin, but it isn't dark. A generator hums in the distance, a steady mechanical heartbeat. I see Dario's partner standing on the porch. He is holding a gas can, his thumb flicking a silver lighter. The power balance shifts as I realize they aren't hiding. They are finishing the job. H. They received a burner phone alert that the vault was found and intend to burn the last witness to their insurance ring. H. My feet move before my brain can protest. I tackle the man just as the lighter sparks. We roll off the porch and into the mud. Shh. I pin his arms, the crowbar pressed against his throat. Where is the boy? I growl. H. He points a trembling finger toward the interior of the cabin. The detective bursts through the front door with his weapon drawn. I hear a small, muffled cry from inside. It is Bentley, huddled in a corner. He is safe. The relief is a sharp, physical pain. The detective leads the partner away in cuffs. I walk into the cabin and scoop Bentley into my arms. H. He smells like wood smoke and old dust. He clings to my neck, his small hands trembling against my skin. H. I look at the table and see a final stack of papers. It is a deed to a property in a country I have never visited. My parents had an exit plan for everyone except me. They were never coming back. I am truly alone. I carry Bentley toward the idling police car. The morning light begins to bleed through the gray clouds. The Laya family has finally collapsed into the truth of survival. I have no house, no parents, and no sister. But I have the boy, H, and I have the evidence to end this cycle. I realized then that I am not fixing their mess anymore. I am building something entirely new. H. I look down at my phone. There is a message from the private investigator I hired weeks ago to watch my sister.